Welcome to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast, where we provide constant improvement to businesses through timely, actionable financial solutions. Do you want answers to your financial questions? Email us at bsp@kaizencpas.com. I'm your host, Mark Valesky. Now let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Kaizen Time. I'm joined by Brian Bright, our Director of Payroll Operations. Brian.
Hi.
Hey, you wouldn't think there's a lot changing in the payroll world, right? It's kind of been the same. You do the work, you get paid. Do the work, you get paid. Isn't that sort of how it works?
It's always changing. There's always new features, new options, new fraud that we can talk about and then point out.
I'm gonna just make a note that we're gonna talk about fraud because that sounds really really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's new features coming out in payroll. Why does it matter? Who's benefiting from this?
Well, everybody benefits. The client, end user, the owner benefits from it. The employee benefits from it because they have accurate data and they get paid accurately. So a couple of things that we ran across the last couple of months is incorrect social security numbers. So normally you do get that at tax sign W-2 season, but other times it's any time throughout the year. You could have somebody say, "Hey, my social's wrong." Maybe because they looked at the online portal. Maybe because their parents saw their check and said, "Hey, your social is incorrect," right? Mm-hmm. Also, it's the summertime, so you might be hiring more kids, right? Younger folks that haven't really worked a lot. They don't really know what they need to start a job, right? So if you're using a self-service option to give them "Hey, I need your social security number. I need your driver's license. I need this information," it makes it way easier for them to onboard.
Okay. So all these payroll platforms are adding these new features that help out. Is there any specific features?
Yeah. So you want error correcting. Okay. I'll give an example of something that just happened to a client of ours. So they hired a younger guy when he was a teenager, probably 3 or 4 years ago. He wrote his social wrong on the piece of paper. So they used to fill out the paper and he wrote it wrong. The I-9 didn't ask for a social because he's younger. You don't actually need a social security number to fill out an I-9. You can use other paperwork. So he passed the I-9 for that, but his social was incorrect. And last year, towards the end of the year, somebody in Wisconsin applied for state benefits. And that social that he wrote down incorrectly was that woman's social security number.
Gotcha.
So state benefits is you don't qualify because you have all these unemployment wages that we paid and social security wages and you have W-2s. Mm-hmm. And so the woman had, it was a really big mess to try to figure that out because we had to prove to the state, we weren't paying this person over here. We were paying somebody else. And it was just because he, wrote the social down wrong. And it wasn't into the system where you can look at the number and compare it to the social security card, or even error tracking where if you write your social security number the first time and you go to another page and enter it again, if it doesn't match, it tells you. So
do these connect with the database, the
Yep.
Social Security Network government database?
Yeah. So not explicitly, but every time we do taxes, we have to send all that information to Social Security Administration. So your W-2 actually doesn't go to the IRS. Your W-2 goes to Social Security Administration. That's what they use to know, hey, here's your benefit statement for Social Security. It's really from the W-2.
Okay. So really it's checking all this stuff on the front end. So it's not a headache on the back end.
Right. So, the kid that had the wrong social, we filed amended W-2s or corrected W-2s for him. I don't know what happens with this Social Security information. They might need to move that information over, and that could be a mess, especially maybe you're getting later charged retirement and you write down the wrong or you have bad handwriting.
Yep.
Or the person reading it. If you send somebody a social, the person transposing it and then somebody typing it, that's like seeing it 3 or 4 times.
Yep. Going through many hands. Okay.
Yep.
So aside from that, what else? You want to talk about some fraud?
Yeah, let's talk about fraud. So
I have a feeling that people who are trying to be fraudulent aren't benefiting from this system.
No, they are not. Okay. So last year we had a lot of those emails where it was, hey, I got a new direct deposit. Can you change it and send it up? I kind of told the story last year about how I got one from one of the partners, like my first week here. Right.
Oh, yeah.
So they're skimming LinkedIn and looking for that kind of stuff. So that one's kind of slowed down. The new one is 1099s. So 1099 contractors getting paid. You could do it various ways. If you have QuickBooks, you could pay them out through QuickBooks. If you do it through payroll, we produced the 1099s at the end of the year for you and then file them. So it's one-stop shop, just like everything else, pretty easy for us to do. So the scam is an email saying, hey, I have a 1099 contractor that I really need to pay. Here's their information. Can you add it to payroll or can you send it out like immediately, right? It's a one-off check. So we had to be cognizant of that because even the emails look like legitimate. Like we even had one sent to us that was a copy of another email string. So it looked really, really legitimate. So they do that. They have the account, the money gets transferred. They take the money out and then they're gone. And then the client finds out like, why did we pay this 1099 like a couple of days later? So it's really, really important that if somebody sends you a request, and especially the time, right? If it says, hey, I really need this now, that at YPD, we pick up the phone and call you. Like, are you sure you want to do this and send this? Right. So just be cognizant of anybody sending anybody in your organization email like, hey, I need to pay out a 1099. We're seeing that all over the place.
Especially if it's someone you don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is very true. And as far as scams go, this is actually a pretty good one because, paying contractors, this is a common thing. You don't always recognize them. You may do a one-off thing. Hey, we need an HVAC guy to come in, right? And the one we used to use isn't in business or moved to Florida, whatever. So you get a new one. So, and then once they're paid, they're gone, right? They vanish.
Yep.
What else? What else is in there?
Yeah. So direct deposits. Now we generally do if we have a couple policies. One, if somebody says, here's my direct deposit information, if it's not like a check and they wrote down a piece of paper, we'll ask to pre-note it, which means we check it ahead of time and they don't get direct deposit right away. Yeah. But we also don't want checks floating around, voided checks. Even though they're voided, they can still get washed and somebody can still like use the check. So we really want the employees to use the self-service to enter in the direct deposit information. We're seeing a lot of good security from like other companies. So if somebody joins our organization from a different payroll provider, sometimes the direct deposit information is not available. It gets masked. So people can't see it. We do that too with ours. So you can change the way the admin sees. So you can block it so the admins can't see any of the direct deposit information, which is really good because you kind of don't want that floating out there. Yeah. So allowing the employees to update it themselves has been a really great experience at YPD. So if they come over and instead of collecting all these paper and having checks and stuff and it being wrong, we're having employees log into the self-service and update their own direct deposit. We're doing that for new clients. And then if somebody needs to add direct deposit, they're doing it themselves as well. So it's been a thing around for a while, but we're really emphasizing like, hey, you're a new client of ours. Oh, we can't get the direct deposit information from the prior provider. Let's just get the app out to everybody. It really drives usage of the app and it makes it easier for the clients, right? So when an employee can update their own information, update their address, update their tax, exemptions, update their direct deposit, you don't need to deal with it. That's one less call that you have to handle.
Well, it's less changing of hands, right? Yep. Less opportunities for there to be a mistake.
Yep.
Okay. And what else? Are there any other expectations we can expect to see?
Yeah. So, self-service onboarding is really an expectation in the marketplace. I would say a lot of employees, if they get a new job and then they show up the first day and to fill out 2 hours of paperwork, they're going to be a little disappointed. So if you have the self-service onboarding, almost every platform has it, they can do that work ahead of time. So, let's say you hire somebody and you really need them to work and start training from day one at hour one. If they do the onboarding, they're not coming into your office and filling out paperwork for an hour or two before they even start working. They're coming in, you're checking their driver's license, social security number, and then boom, you got them on the floor training. So really using employee onboarding to say, hey, here's how we get your information to start with so that you can hit the ground running is really, really important. And it's really an expectation in the marketplace.
All right, cool. All right, Brian, as we wrap all this up, is there anything else you want to go over?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So one more thing on the onboarding. There's usually base onboarding packages, which is like the tax forms and the I-9s and the all the federal data. We can add specialized forms too. So let's say you're a restaurant, we can put your tip policy on it. So even before they start working, they can sign off on it. Employee handbook is something that's really popular to read it ahead of time, and then they check off on it. Or maybe you need like a driver's, I know sometimes trucking companies, you need to fill out like a DOL or DOT, like driving record. You can even upload that too. So we can specialize those kind of requests.
All right. Awesome. Thanks so much, Brian.
Yeah, thank you.
You've been listening to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe and leave a 5-star review. This podcast has been brought to you by Kaizen CPAs Plus Advisors, providing advisory and accounting services to help you grow your business. Learn more at kaizencpas.com or email us at bsb@kaizencpas.com.